What's going on, lifers? Welcome to another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. I'm your host, Jake Thomas, and today's guest comes to us from the West Coast. He and I met almost 2 years ago. I'll let him tell you a little bit more about that, but he is the founder and the head and the mind and the mastery behind what is known as Superhuman Fathers. He's a father himself. He's a husband. He's a business owner. He's a former firefighter. And he's my friend. His name is Kyle Carnohan, and it is a pleasure to have you on the show, my man. Good to see you. And it's been almost 2 years. I can't believe it.
2 years. Hey, this is how you know good friends. It's been 2 years, chat back and forth, and then you talk again, and it's like it's been 10 years and 5 minutes at the same time.
Yeah.
Dude, I feel like I've lived like 17 lifetimes since we last met.
Like keeping up with you, I've seen it. I've seen you change. I've seen your kids grow. I've seen your business grow. I've seen your wife's business grow. I've seen y'all, like the things y'all are doing, the courses you've been having, the talks that you've been at, all the testimonials, the lives change. Like, dude, I've lived it vicariously through you because of how easy it is to see all that online. But like 2 years ago, when we met, you were just really turning that corner of like total commitment. I remember when you got off the phone with the firehouse and made the call and told all of us that, and it was like, holy shit, I did it, man. I totally did it. And you went all in, and then changes with the business, the growth, upgrades in the house, like the dream home for the family, and seeing where the business went. And dude, now, I mean, you were on the cusp of being a millionaire then. I know you are now, but it was like to know you then, to have met you then, was inspiring to me. So what got you to that place when we met 2 years ago, and take us to where we are now?
Shit. So back then it was like I felt like a baby, bro. It's weird what can happen, the transformation and changes that can happen in your life. And like I can tell you this. The pain that created this version of me now, like this shit's not easy. It's devastating on all levels. And then when you put in the push, there's the pressure, the nights where like, I feel like I can't breathe because we put it all on the fucking line again, and literally like feeling like God is telling you, pump it all back in again. Like, bro, listen, I was at my peak and we had like 700 members and we were doing like 250, 300 a month, 300,000. And I was like, we're going 8 figures, dude. Like this is happening. And I was kind of like, no problem. Fucking got this. And, like my start, Big Wes, my friend, Wes Watson, who is just hated. Oh my God. There's a war going on, bro.
Love you, Wes.
Fuck. It's so crazy to me. I get hit up all the time. They're like, you support a wife beater? I was like, first of all, I don't know what the fuck kind of hearsay.
Yep, same.
I don't care. Even if that was true. All my friends are fucked up. I love people. And you know who I really love? Fucked up people. So people are like, that guy does drugs. That guy
get in line, buddy.
5 years ago that guy did this. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Then he needs me more.
Yeah.
Like I don't look at people like that. Dude, I have guys on my group that come to me that are like, I'm an angry father. I yell at my kids. I have been physical with my wife. Do you know what my heart does? It loves them. The rejected, the dregs of society. Fucking bring them. I don't care. Like the thing is, dude, everybody's got shit. Everybody's hiding shit. And then everybody throws darts and arrows at people that are public. You know, it's like, dude, I could pull a story out of anybody that's humiliating.
Yep. Yep.
It's bullshit. So I just share all mine and love the people that share theirs. Well, this process of learning. You also can't go through life without hurting people. We do shit. Like, you know how many times I've made my wife cry? Like, in 22 years of marriage? You know how many times she's broken my fucking heart? I've watched men that are the darkest motherfuckers on the planet find the light in the pit of their darkness and then turn it to the world. And that's what I see in Wes, dude.
Yeah.
I see Wes finding his light in the pits of hell and then being a dark motherfucker who is a son of the devil who decided to choose the light. Those are the most powerful humans on the planet. So anyway, we're crushing it. We have 700 members, and I have this inclination to change everything.
Oh boy.
Just make a complete shift. We just went from $3,000 a month in house payment to like 30, flying high. And I go, hey, we're shifting everything. We're going to do this program called The Awakening, and we're going to bring the Bible into it. And my guys were like, what the fuck? Has Kyle gone insane? And I'm like, yes. But I want deeper transformation. Like, I want guys to come in and not just transform their bodies and become better dads and husbands. I want them to tear their own heart out, twist it in a knot, turn it in half, light it on fire, give it to God, and put it back in. And that's what we did. And it worked. And the first event that I did, I knew that I had to fuck these guys up the first day. And I'm like, I don't know, I'm a pretty nice guy. Like, there was this version of me that had to come out that I'd never really let out at that level. So I was terrified to like do this, but I just knew I needed to like break them down. And that first event, I just blew fire on these guys, like no, just relentless. And my heart was like, save them. But I knew like it wasn't the time. So just absolutely annihilated them all day. Made them carry sandbags around with all their shame. And everybody would just spewed all their truth and then put it in the sand and put it in their bag. So they're carrying around all this shame and like hidden truths and lies that they've been holding on to. And we just carried it around, just fucked them up with it. And they slept with it that night. And then the next morning, they go and they pour it out. And there's this release of all that shit. And then you go straight into casting a vision for the future. Like immediately, boom. And so it's like this massive emotional twist where like you get really clear on all the lies you've been telling yourself. Like, who the fuck am I really? And what is it that I really want? And then we just make plans and just dream. And we had the craziest experiences, dude. Like hard ass men, hard motherfuckers. Finally, for the first time in their lives, breaking down in tears and hitting their knees and like asking to be prayed for, and baptisms happening, like craziest stuff. Because like people were just like open, you know, and all the shit that was holding them up is like they're free from it. And they're not worried about what anyone thinks anymore. They're not trying to be cool. They're just authentic. And so we did that. We did 5 of those this year. And now we're in a spot where like my wife and I have just been coming together like crazy. And we've been helping a lot of couples because just by chance, you know, the guy comes in, the wife's like, I want to do it. We're like, oh, his wife does it too. So we've been coaching couples, and then we started building like elevations into different groups. So we had this group called the Power Couple Playbook, and it was all couples just playing the game of life and like breaking down all their dreams and visions. And then we would have like the year goals broken down into monthly, weekly, daily, and then we report that, and watching these couples come together and make plans. And that was amazing. And now we're realizing like we've created a program for couples to come in on the like right in the beginning.
Nice.
So now we got a couples thing going on, which me and my wife get to do together. I've ran like in the last 2 years, I don't know, 40 events. Like not knowing what the fuck I'm doing, bro. Like nothing, no idea. Just like, I don't know. Let's try it. Let's burn another 100,000. Let's burn another 100,000. Like I just burn money on trying shit.
Hey, you got to be good at something, right? I mean, Kyle's already an amazing skateboarder. He probably wouldn't be the one to tell you that, but he's a really good skateboarder and a great singer songwriter too. And I remember, man, when the first time I saw you play, reaching out to you after watching you, because I was like, dude, that was all heart. I think when I wrote you verbatim, I was like, man, that was beautiful, and it was all heart. You know, like because you really came out. Your personality, your emotions, just came out in the song that you were singing at the time, and like I still have that song saved somewhere on my computer, or like in iTunes. I like had to stalk you down to find it, but like I found it, and it's real, man. And I respected you from the get go because that's what I saw in you. I saw a very honestly open and vulnerable person, a big guy. Kyle's a big dude, big burly man, and heads of family. And to see like your willingness to be vulnerable like that and sensitive was really inspiring to me. Something that I was like, that's different. That's not what I was expecting. And I think that's what a lot of people now obviously have to relate to you about. You
Yeah.
know, when they see you, there's probably a big perception similar to Wes, you know, like, okay, what is this big guy going to tell me? And then you hear him talking like, how the fuck are those words coming out of your mouth? How are you speaking so stoically, so philosophically, intellectually, so impactful? Like no way would I've ever have thought those words would come out of you. But they did and do. And I know that's what those people see in you in the same way that you lead your family, the same way you'd lead them. And I don't want to say I'm surprised because surprise would be the wrong thing to say, but just it's awesome. It's awesome to see, man. And like to see what you've done with involving your brothers, like, you know, seeing the videos of like, hey man, my kids are ripped. My wife's ripped. My brothers got jacked, you know, like that's selflessness at the front. You know, it's as much of it is about you, it's sharing it with other people. And I kind of make jokes about that with people saying like, you know, me with what I do. And I think a lot of people relate to it for the reasons that we do was, you know, for me, I never wanted to be the only one that was fucked up when I was partying. I wanted my friends to have fun too. You know, like, hey guys, I got a bag. Like, who wants to throw down? Like, I don't want to silk and sorrow like by myself. I want you guys to feel this shit too. Like, this is a good time. And I think a lot of that now is my way of kind of rechanneling that same mindset or thought process and just trying to infect and envenomate as many people, anybody that's willing to hear it. You know, it's like you
Yeah.
talked about. It's kind of like a religion. You know, like
Yeah.
sometimes you
Yeah.
walk around preaching it, talking about it, then other times you're not, but you're just kind of drifting through places. But the second someone asks you about it, hey, I'll tell you all about it. I'll talk your fucking ear off. Absolutely. Because I can't help but want to share it with
Yep.
somebody. So like what, you know, y'all 22 years, first off, congratulations to y'all. This didn't start 2 years ago. What's the why behind Superhuman Fathers? You're this great, you know, conqueror now with all this success and all these lives changed and the 700 members and, you know, the 8-figure company. But what was the why behind it though, man? You know, you talked about the pain, your pain, being a driver.
Mm-hmm.
Go there and tell us like why, what had to happen. Because clearly you and your wife were together for a while. And then all of a sudden, you know, voila, this happened. Or what was the itch on your back and like the demand, you know, within yourself to do this?
I'm scared. That's why. And I've always had a heart, like a heart that just is emotional and like feels so deep. And when I would show it to people, they would fucking stab it. And that was crushing growing up. Like, I didn't want to hide. like that was worse.
Mm.
So the more authentic I was growing up, the more I kind of got trashed. And I had that thing where I wanted to be liked. I wanted people to like me, but it was, like people are fucking mean.
Kids are
And
mean, especially.
yeah, kids are mean too. So people are always like, "Oh, you must have been bullied when you were a kid." I'm like, "Yep, you got me pegged." They say it like it's an insult. Like, you must have been bullied when you were a kid. Yeah, I was.
No shit.
So I think there was a piece of me that was like, you know what? I'm just going to get as fucking dangerous as possible so that I could just be me fearlessly. And there's something about the physical fitness side when you get disciplined and you're working harder and putting more into what you do than any other motherfucker across the board. It gives you a little window to like shine your light a little brighter. And for a time, it'll train you to just be honest and just be you. And once that happens and that switch happens, and you're not afraid of what people think anymore, then you're free. So I try to help guys do both sides, like get to the point where they don't give a fuck no matter where they're at, but at the same time build themselves into a fucking dangerous savage. When they look in the mirror, they're just like, fuck, look at you, so that they can hit it from both sides. Because when you're like super spiritually connected, you don't need shit.
Yeah.
Like you don't need tact, you don't need you don't need discipline, you don't need anything. You just be, and you're just like doing what you're supposed to do. The problem is it's like really hard to stay in that state all the time. So you build these protective mechanisms for when you fall out of that being tapped in, where you're like, okay, this is my discipline. These are my values. These are my systems. And so you build those systems out so that when you do fall out of that like powerful spiritual place, you have something to fall back on while you're trying to open your eyes again and see. And so for me, before I actually could see clearly who I am and where I'm going, I built these frames of like commitments, and they worked. So I believed in them. And then going through this process of just being disciplined and seeking like who's God? Why am I here? What am I meant for? What is my purpose? And starting to get into deeper levels of that, then it like I have these moments where nothing is hard. I'm afraid of nothing.
Yeah.
All I have is hope. The worst thing could be happening in my life. I don't care. It's all part of the process of learning. I'm just gathering wisdom and experience. Doesn't matter what kind of pain I'm in. And then like right now, I'm like in and out of that state right now. And I'm like, how do I get more into this place where I'm in just full surrendering acceptance of what is, while still pressing forward hard, letting go of the outcome, and yet fully engaged at the same time. I tend to put my back against the wall on purpose to motivate myself, and I'm trying to get myself out of that habit. My wife is begging me to do so. I like to put it all on black. But this is where Superhuman Fathers is going, man. Like, I actually have a problem sometimes selling because I sell way too high level. And I'm realizing, like, I got to, like, so you want to get ripped? Okay. Perfect. Let's talk about that. But I'll just, like, want to take them to the stars, bro.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
I want to be like, let me show you where this leads. And I'm talking about, like, alignment and just, like, this feeling. And really, they just want to get ripped. Or like with the couples, it's like, do you not have a lot of sex? Do you want more sex? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay,
Simple.
let's work on more sex.
Simple.
Really, like I'm talking about like deep spiritual connection with the triangulation of God, your creator. And I just got to keep things fucking simple sometimes, bro.
I'm telling you, man, it's like when you, I don't know. It's impossible to not want that for other people. I find it very, very, very difficult to not be selfishly wanting that for other people, especially close friends and family, like
Yeah.
without a doubt. The closer the person, the closer the relationship to you, the more selfish I am about wanting that for them. And that's irrespective of what they want. Like you said, maybe they just want to get ripped. They don't give a shit about enlightenment and alignment and who the fuck is, Deepak Chopra, whatever. But like, that might be somebody's Elysium, or that might be their first step to getting
Yep.
there. You know what I
That's
mean?
it,
Like
dude.
we want to just pump it all right into them and be like, trust me, come to the light and like feel the power. And you're gonna be. I can show you how to get there a lot faster. Basically, like I'm not skipping steps, but look, this is way more of an efficient process. Take it from me. I had to dredge through the depths of hell, and but like, look, I can show you how to do that too. But like, this is a way faster way, and you'll appreciate it. Trust me.
Yep. I
But
think you're right, dude. Like you got to give people the steps that we took, and then you can accelerate them through those steps, but they can't skip steps. And I have fucked this up. I have lost guys that were on the path because I tried to take them. I tried to skip steps,
yep,
and you can't. You can't do it.
nope.
I'm
As
literally
much as you want to
realizing
put them all
this
together,
morning. I made some offer shifts and changes to my program this morning because of this concept. It was like a realization in my writings this morning. It's like, another shift. It's like shift number 17. Okay.
This is an interesting week, man. I had a couple of evolutions as well. So like, I don't know. It must be something in the air right now. But what was it something specific? Talking about childhood and dealing with things growing up, and obviously the phase. Kids can be mean. Growing up can be tough. Middle school, grammar school, high school. It's a rough place. You're
Yeah.
exposed to a lot. You deal with a lot. Kids are brutally honest for the most part, right? Was it just this culmination of dealing with it, of enduring, abuse or bad mouthing, bullying, or was there like one day when you can say it was this day, this time, this reason, etc. And I said, I got to do this.
Yeah. I think so. Like, I've always had this, everyone I always met, I was like, just, I just knew they were better than me.
Mm,
Like, I just knew. I meet somebody and it kept me in this humble place, which was kind of cool because I was like, I was in this place where I just, no matter who you were, I was just like, you're better than me.
where
So
do you where do you
it
think
made me
that came
soak
from?
up a lot, you know, and
Where do you
and it
think
came,
that came from?
fuck, dude. I don't know. It may have came from my childhood, just being a weaker kid. Like I would go do pull ups at the like they used to test you in fitness at school, you know.
Yeah, yeah, of
And I'd go
course.
to do pull ups in like fourth grade or whatever. I couldn't do a fucking pull up, and
Mm,
all these other guys are doing pull ups, and I'm sitting there with like three girls, and I got to do hangs for 20 seconds with these girls, and I'm like, well, this is fucking stupid. Like
mm,
I'm just a weak kid. My grades sucked. Teachers just basically told me I was stupid and was never going to amount to anything. I was always in trouble. My parents were good. They didn't really give a shit. My brother was like super smart, straight A, like perfect kid, and I was just kind of the fuck up, you know. So I think it came from that probably, you know. And then I get into then I get into banking. I do really well. I was in the mortgage side. I worked at a bank, and right when I came home from my mission, so I went on a Mormon mission and just dedicated myself to that, and just went full monk mode, like literally didn't have a boner for 2 years, just no TV, nothing. Talk to your family, Christmas and Mother's Day, and other than that, you're literally knocking doors and spreading the message of Jesus, you know.
mm.
So then I come home and I work at a bank, did really well. I was like, felt like it came pretty easy to me. 2008 market crash and just lost absolutely everything. So bankrupt, had a couple kids, lost my houses, cars, 401k drained, just gone. And that's when my wife was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, I'm going to go be a fireman. And then everyone's telling me, like, you're too old. You can't do this. It's too hard. At that time when the economy tanks, like, everybody goes to government jobs. So, like, I'm taking tests with like 5,000 people. Volunteer fireman, getting paid shit as an EMT, working another EMT job, get a medic job, working 120, 130-hour weeks, working nights, going to school in days for like 3 years in full poverty. And then we got our job. And for those first 3 years at my fire job, I was just back and fully abused because you pay your dues. And in the firehouse, like, especially if you have a tendency to be a little nervous, they're going to stick their finger in that infected spot. So my fucking hands would shake on calls and I would just like have a hard time making decisions. They just fuck me up, dude. I'm on the verge of getting fired all the time, like barely squeezing through my tests and shit. And I ended up really hurting myself. My back, I blasted out my knees. I'm a skateboarder. So as I was getting into my 30s, I would take all my energy out in the skate park because I felt like a king at the skate park. I felt like a pussy everywhere else in my life. And little did I know, like looking back on that version of me, even though I was scared, I never backed down to shit, nothing. And looking back, I'm like pretty proud of that version of me because I was a terrified fucking bunny rabbit. But I showed up every fucking day for everything in my life. I never backed down to anything. And I would beat myself up for my nerves. But in reality, it was harder for me than for a lot of guys because I just was naturally nervous. And I had to heal. And I was depressed. And I was like, wow, if I didn't have kids, I would have blown my fucking head off. But I started getting super into rehab, very disciplined with my workouts and my nutrition because I was stuck in the office and I was like, well, I have to heal. So I became obsessed with like all of that shit, lifting, nutrition, muscle building, rehab. And I did that for like a year and a half of just psychotic obsession. And I didn't even realize what I was building, but I go back to the firehouse after I'm healed up. I mean, literally, I had like 2 plates on the bar one day, and I worked up from being able to do like 5 squats with the assistance of chairs. And I got 225 on the bar, and I did like 15 reps, and I racked it, and I just like broke down, crying uncontrollably at the gym, just gratitude for legs.
Fucking awesome.
Legs. Just having legs that worked. So I go back to the firehouse. I walk in the door, and those motherfuckers didn't know who I was. and immediately it was switched. I was leading. I was making decisions. I was talking with power. Something switched in my mind and heart through getting the discipline in the body. When confidence rose, and I just I started just fucking guys up and not giving a shit what anyone thought. And so there was this, and when I would talk at the table, like all the guys are listening to my stories and I'm speaking clearly and my hands stop shaking. And I'm like, what happened in that year and a half? What was that? So I just studied that. Like, what was that? Well, it was discipline. It was growth. It was me doing something that was impossible, that the doctors told me I wasn't able to do. And through consistency and dedication and study and obsession, I created this new version of me that then had immediate effects on the way I was looked at, the way I was treated, the way I walked, talked, spoke, led, even on calls, like really shitty, scary calls. I wasn't nervous anymore. I could go walk into the bloodiest, nastiest chaos and just be comfortable. And in this process, firemen are fucked up, dude. They drink a shit ton. They eat like shit. They're stressed out and depressed. And so as I'm rising, a lot of these guys are starting to fucking tank. But they're watching my relationship. They're seeing me skateboarding, playing music, doing jujitsu with a rack of abs and just like living life like a fucking rock star and as a family man, and honest and dedicated, and never complaining about my wife, and they just wanted that. So guys started approaching me, and mostly the approach was about fitness and nutrition.
Yep.
And so I just started helping them in the firehouse for free for about 10 years. Had them on a Trainerize app, just coaching. And then I meet Wes, go through his program for a year. I was like, I could tighten up. I could probably put some muscle on. I'm like, these transformations are insane. Went through his program, and that dude breathed a new view of myself into me, where I was like, dude, I need to learn this business game, entrepreneurship. Like, what? I did this. Why can't I do that?
Yeah.
So I just did the same shit, same dedication, same obsession. And at the end of the year, I had built a supplement company. And at the end of the year, Wes was like, hey, you're a coach, bro. You got to coach. I'm like, I do coach. I coach in the fire. I'm a fireman. He's like, fuck that. Put this out to the world, dude.
Got to monetize big.
That's what he said. And he said these words to me. He's like, we're on this call, and he's like, Kyle, you do the most. And I was like, wait, what'd you say? He's like, you do the most. He's like, I coach like high level motherfuckers. Like, you do more than anyone. I watch you. I watch your life. You do more than anything. You do the most. I'm like, fuck, dude. Big Wes is telling me I do the most. I'm like, that's crazy.
Fuck yeah.
And like later that night, I was thinking about it. And I was thinking about that statement, you do the most. And I'm looking at my life. And the words came to me, and you need the least. And that was the mantra, it still is, for Superhuman Fathers. We do the most, we need the least. And that has stuck with the group, because we just fucking show up and do what is required, regardless of what we get out of it, or who likes us, or how much money we make, or it doesn't fucking matter. The results don't matter. Who is the man that shows up? Who is that guy? That's the only thing that matters. And with that, I don't need shit from my wife. I don't need sex. I'll earn it without earning it because of who I am. I will inspire her so much that I'm so undeniable that she can't help but desire me. My children will follow me and follow my example because of the vibration of my soul that they cannot deny, and the results that I have in my life. And I need nothing. And by needing nothing, everything is magnetized to me. Everything that I ever desired. And I'll give it away in a second. We do the most, we need the least.
Dude, I swear it's something with skateboarders, man. I swear, like I use this a metaphor. I mean, first off, like, god damn. Everybody listen to that, man. Fucking let that infect you deeply. Let that infect you deeply. I use a metaphor with skateboards a lot. You know, watching children, you've got, what, 5, right?
Yeah.
Right, 5 kids. You've had to watch 5 children learn how to walk. Did any of them quit and say, I'm not going to do it? Did any of them refuse and say, you know what? I'm just going to crawl, or I'm just going to scoot? Watching children learn how to walk is one of the coolest things in the world, because there is just absolutely pure joy, curiosity, determination, stubbornness, like this cool mix of emotions. But at the foundation of it all is determination.
Yeah.
And like instinct, this drive to like, I will do this. I don't care how many times I hit the corner of my fucking eye on the coffee table, or that dad's like, no, you got to let her fall. You got to let him do it. Like, it's just, it's amazing to watch, because it takes you on this roller coaster of emotions of should I, shouldn't I? Like, God, like it's crippling, but it's necessary. But their determination does not change. It's awesome. I told this story the other day, comparing that to athletes, and certain athletes, specifically skateboarders, who literally wear their scars with pride as badges of honor for the attempts they've made. Like, hey, I'm going to learn this new trick. All right, it might take me about 100 tries to do it. What other, you know, delayed sense of gratification is there in sport? Because typically, okay, you're going to learn how to throw a baseball, you're throwing a football, you're running track. Yes, you're going to build up speed and agility and all these things. But like skateboarding, it's like, all right, I'm going to go hit this rail, X amount of rotations, and maybe it's going to be front side, back side, whatever. And it's like, I'm probably going to break a wrist, pop an elbow, dislocate a shoulder. I'm going to, crack my tailbone, which is a fucking horrible one. Roll the ankles several times over. Like the amount of pain, scuffing the knees, like dude, scrape knees, like you sign up for that all day. We're talking about bones changing, teeth get lost, concussions, a lot of concussions. But like that type of determination is to me very synonymous with a child learning how to walk. So the people that I know that have been dedicated skateboarders, and you're one of them, they've always been real ornery motherfuckers to me. They've been very unique people. I haven't met one that's been a lame-o, I guess.
Yeah, we're different, dude. We're considered weird. We're considered weirdos in the world, for sure.
Absolutely. So like when you're talking about your backstory, having skateboarding and music, and that's a great combination now because we've got these two beautiful forms of expression, artistic expression. One that comes with earning pain, and the other one that's kind of like a vessel to bequeath it, to kind of purge and cleanse the pain. So it's really complementary. But man, there's something about skateboarding that I swear that's got to be part of your secret. From what I know of you, from what I've heard about you, and from what I can see, it's like that's got to be a part of the secret sauce is all those falls, in spite of, regardless of who said you can't. Like it's got to be part of it,
Yeah, what's crazy is skateboarding itself started as like anti-establishment, creativity, no rules. And then skateboarding became its own religion and cult where like you had to dress a certain way, or like now everyone tried to fit into this mold of skateboarding, which really ruined the culture. In fact, I knew I was onto something when I started getting hate from fellow skateboarders for who I was and how I present my message and what I do. And like I get tons of hate. Bro, it's cool that you skate with your kids, but this isn't it. Like when I started getting hate from skateboard, I was like, I'm still doing it.
I'm doing it right. I'm doing
it the way it was originated. And the other thing is we always hated on like rollerbladers, right?
Sure.
But now it'll be a skate park full of like 100 skateboarders and one rollerblader shows up by himself, just having fun ripping around. I'm like, that's the skateboarder.
Gangsta.
That's like the old skateboarder in the 80s and 90s. I'm like, that guy doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah. It's like somebody telling me I've got bad yoga. Come on, dude. Like we're all just here doing our best. Isn't what this is about? Like we're trying to just do this well ourselves and have our own practice and be the best at our own version of that practice. Like, isn't this an all-encompassing, all-inclusive, all-welcoming by nature art? And like you said, for skateboarding to be for the alternative, for the anti-establishment, for the unique, for the rogue, for the outcast, and for people to start like handcuffing you with like, hey man, like that's fine, but not that. Like, dude, like to your words, it's like you're embodying what the grassroots aspect of it is.
It's great. But if you look at anything, even spirituality, like a concept of spirituality then turns into a group and a culture, which turns into a religion and then starts putting people into little boxes. And it's not the belief system that does it, but it's the culture around it that then traps people in rules and the way you have to see God this way. And it's no different. The people that have the most shame that I work with, that are the most messed up, were raised in some sort of religion that just like brutalized them with shame. And I don't blame the teachings. I love the teachings. Yeah. I blame the culture and the expectations and judgments of the people in that group. I was a product of it.
Yeah.
I grew up Mormon. So I grew up with a frame that I was not allowed to go outside of from birth. And so how will I ever be able to seek if I've been spoon-fed what it is since day one, never having to go into the pit of darkness and loneliness and despair to go to find my own way. So,
Or that, or that occasionally it's you who have done something, not the greater powers that be. And that's I grew up Catholic, went to Catholic school all my life, and it took going to Catholic school for me to actually start to separate myself from the, I don't want to say indoctrination, but just the real, you painted it really well, kind of shape of here's the perimeter, don't go outside the fence.
yeah,
Don't question this, don't wander over there, like that's a danger zone. Oh, definitely don't say that. But learning about religion, theology, like the historical aspects of theology and prayer and the whys behind things, and then going to church or mass and being like, these motherfuckers are just drones.
yeah,
I'd be like, Mrs. Stevens and Mr. Schwepp over there, they're just here to appease the fucking wives club, and he's part of the Elks Lodge, and they don't want to not get seen. I'm like, at the time I'm like 12, 13, and I'm thinking like, I bet you not one of these people could tell me about the Apostolic Creed or the Nicene Creed and the why behind it and who said it and where it was written and what it has to actually deal with. I was like, none of these fucking people know. I was like, the only reason I know these prayers is because I've sat here and I know them through rote memory and I can recite them like a fucking parrot. But nobody in here knows what this actually means. They're just, for the most part, believing in something they think to be blah, 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 but they're just passed down to them generationally. But it's like, I went to school for this stuff. I know these people didn't. And that's ironically where I started to question my belief, my faith, or like what was my level of participation like. And one of the big things about that, and what I actually had trouble dealing with in recovery, was that it was always up to the greater powers that be, that it was never me who made it
yeah,
happen. It was never my own magic. It was always because God allowed it to happen for me, or that he had to carry me through, or that I couldn't have done it without him. And I was like, I mean, I appreciate the assistance, but like, don't tell me I had nothing to do with it. Like,
mm-hmm.
don't take all the credit. Like, I mean, give me a page or something, give me a little bit. Right. And I don't mean to say that selfishly or egoically, but I think a lot of times it's easy for us. And I think what you're kind of hitting on now about the separation between the two is that you don't get the chance to find that kind of pain when it's always able to be absolved from you.
Yep,
When you may be a sinner, but you're permitted to do so. You can be forgiven constantly, but it's like, okay, what happens when you turn that off? What happens when you don't have Big Brother? What happens when you don't have absolution? What happens when you just have to face reality? What happens when you just have to look at, oh shit, this is who I am. This is what I've become. This is where my decisions have got me in life.
yep,
Wait, what happened to all the backing and the support and structure that I had, that everybody said it was okay and that it wasn't my fault and that I always had this greater power enacting my life for me? So that was my big kind of split, to say like, people deserve to have credit for themselves. Believe in what you want. Absolutely. I believe in power greater than humankind. No doubt about it. We can't just be this walking being, breathing being. There's got to be a greater existence amongst all of us. But like, people, I believe, deserve to take credit for themselves and for their accomplishments and their achievements. I think that's a critical part of growth, of personal growth, development, self-discovery. Absolutely. That you have to go through those doors, and like you talked about, going down to those pits of hell and those dark, dark, dark places alone, and to be
yep,
able to come out alone and say, you know what? Nobody came and got me out of there. I had to get down that low. I had to go through all that. I had to go through those pains. I had to deal with that shit with my knees. I had to be that broken. I had to go through that shaking and trembling. There was nobody there. No matter what you call. I mean, hey, prayer is a beautiful thing, but guess what? No is the most common answer, or I'm busy, motherfucker, get in line. That's my favorite answer to prayer. Like, I'm busy. Get in line. Take a number. You
hey,
know?
it's like you already know the answer. You ask, and it's like, or it's like, do whatever you want. Fine. Because whatever creator there is, he actually doesn't give a shit whether it hurts or not. He's like, take that road and see what you learn from it. Because if the whole point here is soul expansion, then everything bad and everything good is all good for us. Yeah. Which means if I turn a really bad direction and then we're like, oh, little Johnny's lost. And you're like, that is the path he must take. Yeah. Like, keep an eye on him. Watch what happens. And he might die in a gutter, which is scary.
Yeah.
That was his path. I mean, the greatest thing I ever did was go, you know what? Maybe there's no God. And maybe we just rot in the ground. Because that was my greatest fear, to even ask the question. Oof. And until I actually asked the question and sat in that place for a long time, I never would have found this feeling that I have now. Because I came from a place of absolute freedom to find whatever it is for me. But until you clean the slate, it ain't going to work. When people come to me and they're like, they've been raised in a way of just utter shame. They just believe that they're destined for hell for all the things that they've done. Mm. I'm like, why don't you tell that God to fuck off? And maybe Control Alt Delete and open up your heart and listen. Don't just believe everything that's been ingrained in you. Go sit in hell for a while. Oh, yeah. With your ears open and your heart open. See what comes out of it. And it's really hard to do because it's like letting go of that safety rope.
100%.
And you just plummet. It's like literally you're trusting that it'll lead you someplace good, but you don't know.
I think that's the thing that we all avoid, to truly let go, to truly cut the cord, no more safety line, and have to look in the mirror and say, this is really who I am, stripped down. This is me with it, no makeup, no filter, metaphor, but like to really say, wow, this is where I am. And I think that's what people have to do to begin. Like when you say, yeah, I just want to get abs. I just want to get ripped. And you're like, all right, cool. Here's your superficial, toy. There you go. Okay. But if it's what gets you started, fine. If it's what begins, but it's like, you're sitting back there going like, I want your fucking backbone. Like I'm looking for your soul.
Yes.
Because I know that's what it takes. And it's like, that's what's really gonna help you. But man, people are afraid of that, dude. Whether it's denial or knowing and just be like, oh no, I can't tell them that. Fuck. That's a no-fly zone for me, Kyle. No, sir. But I'll absolutely go through a workout with you. I'll diet, but don't. You can't step on those childhood dark memories for me. That's a no-go road, buddy.
Yeah, I think the whole thing that I've been training for all these years is that right there. How do I extract the backpack full of bricks that someone's been carrying around that they think is the thing that will ruin them, but will actually free them? Mm. So like everything I do is to lead up to that moment of freedom for that person where they can say, yeah, I was molested by my dad. And I'm like, there it is. There it is. Because the second they say it, they're just released from it. You know what's crazy? So much of that shit goes on. Like, it's so crazy. It's just normal, dude. Like, I'll tell my Zoom call, like, hey, who's experienced something like this? All these hands. They
go, oh, shit.
I go, looks like you ain't alone, motherfucker. Yeah. Like, life's fucked up. And then guys sit in their shame pit thinking they're all alone and like they're the only one. And then little do they know they're sitting on the pew at church with 5 guys that went through the exact same thing they did, but ain't nobody talking.
Yeah. Dude,
I'm just done. Done with the masses, bro.
the sandbag metaphor, but literalism is genius. You know, verbalize all that, put it in the bag, carry the bag around. Because you already have. I know you've been carrying the bag, you to them, you know, like I know you motherfuckers been carrying this shit around. So now you're
Yep.
really going to carry it around. And what does this feel like? You
Yeah.
hate this thing and you got to slug it around and you got to sleep with it. Oh, the intimacy. How provocative and just like, oh, the disdain. I can imagine, I mean, you know, like you got sand all over you and like, I got to sleep with this shit. And it's like, yes, let this be a metaphor, but embodied in a literal sense of like, that's what you're doing to yourself by holding on to that stuff,
I make them
by
name
not letting it
themselves
open.
based upon
Oh,
it. They give
oh
themselves
God.
nicknames based upon their bullshit lies. And that first day, I'm going to convince them to believe it because I want them to feel every bit of that shit.
Mm.
All the shit they've been avoiding to feel. So once they feel the entire chunk of shame and pain and it just breaks them, now they're ready to see the truth.
So what was your sandbag moment, or what was your sandbag? You know, obviously this is all these evolutions are ones you've had to go through yourself,
Yeah.
right? Like the whole idea at the firehouse is like, hey, I'm just, you know, this is what was working for me. I started dosing it on the guys. 10 years later, after serving all these people, like, oh shit, we might kind of have something here. You know, like this is, hey, well, what's the secret? I don't know. This is just what I did for myself, and I shared it with my friends, and it worked for them too. So, blah. So, what was your sandbag exercise, Kyle?
It was a fucking mask. People pleaser, fake ass, fucking liar mask. Crazy thing is, when I was a liar, and this is why I understand liars, I thought I was being honest because I couldn't even see.
Mm.
There were no eye holes in my mask. Couldn't see a thing. I just thought you were supposed to protect yourself, protect your heart. I didn't realize you're supposed to just put it out. And there's a power between when you're like authentic as fuck and you walk around with your heart out like this, and you just hand it to people, then you get to test them.
Oh yeah.
Let's see what you do with this. And then they stab it, stab it, stab it. And you're like, okay, I'm going to take that back now. You are not going to be in my inner circle.
Yeah.
Now I know. You don't have to get mad. You don't have to get defensive. Don't be surprised.
Yeah.
That's like most of the time. But don't be this motherfucker that like doesn't trust anyone or doesn't hides behind this fucking mask to just crawl in a corner, because then you're controlled. You have no freedom. You're everyone's bitch.
Love it.
So like that, and then here's the craziest concept. When you're fully open and you meet someone, or as a coach, you're coaching someone, right? Fully open and vulnerable, no secrets, nothing, everything exposed. When that bumps up against someone who's blocked, you'll feel it immediately.
Mm.
And when you've really opened yourself up and you know you're completely, your belly's shown, man. Like you're like, you could kill me right now. And there's a block, then you know they have a block. There's something that you can help them get unblocked. But until you open yourself up completely, you can't see it because it might be you.
Totally.
So I had this with my wife for years.
Mm.
I would try to get in her soul and I would hit this wall. And there was something about her that I wasn't getting. And as we've gone through years of marriage, it was just her own insecurities growing up and her own resentments that built up towards me and her own protecting of herself. But for years, I thought like I was the problem. And in one sense, I was, because I wasn't creating a safe enough container for her where she came from to be able to open up. So yeah, I definitely had my part in it that I couldn't see, but I was open and vulnerable and she would not let me in.
Mm.
And so now I feel that same feeling when I meet or talk to people, and the question will come up immediately, like, "Oh, where's their block?" Because this block is what's blocking all their relationships. It's also the reason why they're fat. It's also the reason why they don't excel faster.
Mm.
Like it's also the reason why their marriage is disconnected. It's the reason why they're not having the sex that they want or making the money that they want. Now, don't get me wrong. some of these motherfuckers, these closed off block motherfuckers can make a lot of money. And that's the worst thing that can happen to them. Because then they just go all in on the money.
Sure.
There's a certain skill set, stay safe, closed off, repeat that process, gather a bunch of money, and then they're like, I'm good.
Yep.
And they're the worst off. The most lonely motherfuckers on the planet.
Man, I'm glad you talked about trust with relationships because, and giving your heart out, and letting it be out there, ad valorem, like, this is who I am. I'm not changing who I am to appease you. Like, you want to shit on it? Like, all right, cool. On to the next one. Like, okay, cool.
Yep.
On to the next one. I like giving trust just without regard. Meaning, people say, "Oh, you got to earn trust." I think trust is something to be lost. It's not necessary that it needs to be earned, right? Like we meet, our trust is 100% from the first handshake. Why not? Relationship, the Fidelity Bank and Trust is a very highly prized bank. And as long as you maintain your accounts and keep a good ledger and don't make a deposit in another branch, things are usually pretty good, right? But that trust is almost like immediate in a relationship where, okay, maybe you need to build up certain aspects of trust. But as far as in like, hey, I got you, you got my back, I trust you. Like that's almost something that just starts the way, as opposed to thinking like, no, you got to earn trust with me. Like, why? That's a you problem. Why not trust someone right off the rip?
Yep.
Like, to me, trust is something to be lost, but I don't want to say that in a negative way, but trust is something to be maintained by those bound in the agreement of it.
Yep.
It's a responsibility, like us as friends, it's like, it's up to us to maintain that trust. That's a good thing. It's an investment. It's a nurture. It's a sense of pride. It's a product. It's the bond between people. So for people to be lazy on that or irresponsible, I think it tells you a lot about their form of trust.
Yep, I agree. And that's like, that's it. It's like you meet someone and you give them all your truth. And then if they manipulate you with that truth, then you go, oh, they still have things to learn.
Yeah.
Maybe because of the trust that I've given them, they'll allow me to help them with that.
Oof.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
But I have plenty of relationships where they would abuse my truth for years.
Yeah.
And it was my decision to make it hurt me or not.
Yes.
I'm like, is this really hurting me?
Yeah.
In some ways they can, and then you have to pull away from them. If they're hurting your family or hurting you financially or whatever, yeah, okay, then you got to make a decision. But I'm like, is this really hurting me, or is this just my ego? Right. If it's just my ego, then I'll just roll with it and build this relationship over time. And at some point, there's going to come a moment where they fuck up so bad because they're so closed off and can't open up that they go, Kyle, help me. I've watched you for years. How do you do this? They're just a couple clicks away from opening up and seeing it. Dozens of, dude, I was in the firehouse. They're all fucking egotistical, chest puffing, closed off, tough guys. Just love them.
It took one to know one. It took you having to be there, man. Like having to know that, right? To be able to see that in them. Like, how could you have related? How could you have had the empathy or the wherewithal, the understanding if you hadn't? I mean, you want to talk about missions and everything, like going from your LDS mission to getting into banking to getting into fire, like the failures, the collapse, whether it's economies, mortgages, houses, all like cars, like without all of that, like this doesn't exist.
Nah, you can't empathize, And there's like a certain ability to connect with a very hard, egotistical, angry man. And I had to learn how to deal with that energy for survival in the firehouse. Like for emotional survival, I had to learn how to banter with that energy. So I don't care who the fuck you are. You come into my world, like I know how to play with these guys. I know exactly what's going on in their heads. I can watch that ego flare, and I know how to roll with that shit. So like, I don't care how hard of a motherfucker you are. Like, you come into my world, I'm going to own your ass,
Mm.
and not control. I'm just going to teach you how to love. That's my favorite, bro, because they're the unreachables, dude.
Mm.
They're the fucking unreachables. They're the hated. They're the rejected. That guy's an asshole. Perfect. That's my guy.
You sound like the Statue of Liberty. Bring me, you're tired, you're weak, you're shameful, you're poor, you're broken, you know?
Because that guy's in so much pain and he's so lonely, dude. And nobody sees that in that guy.
Mm.
They don't see the pain behind the anger. The anger is a lashing out of so much pain. It's the only way they know how to react to it. So all I see is pain. The world rejects them, man, because it hurts their little feelers.
It's the
Or it
truth.
scares them.
It's the truth, though. Mm.
I mean, you take a father and you can teach him how to feel. You change his whole dynamic in his family and his future generations forever. That's it.
Doing the most with the least.
Yeah, man.
Well, dude, what's in store for you and the rest of the Superhuman Fathers universe before this we finish another year?
This year, it's all about working with couples, and I love getting guys laid. It's great.
Nice.
I love that call where they're just like, dude, we just had the best sex of our lives, and I had just met with them once the night before. Like, but because when I get a couple with me and my wife, we can just see, we just watch them communicate, the way they look at each other, the energy they have, and that hard ass motherfucker, he'll listen to me, and his wife watches him listen to me, and she's like, he doesn't listen to anyone, so she trusts me. And then my wife had to live with me when I was that guy for a while, so she understands me too, and she understands her, so we can just see right through that shit, and we can call it out right in the moment and start just making these little clicks, and then exposing some truths, get them safe to tell each other the truth. And sometimes it's hard as fuck.
Yeah.
You know, like I'm sitting with a guy and she was talking about how she caught him looking at porn 2 years ago or something. And I was like, okay. I was like, all right, dude. So how much did you look at porn last week? Right in front of her. And he's like, I'm like, come on. Last week, how many times? He's like, twice. And she's like, you still look at it? And I'm like, okay, good. This is out on the table now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then Whitney's like, yeah, Kyle was hiding that shit from me for a long time. And and then she tells her side of the story, and then kind of teaches him how the mind of a man works.
Mm.
And then we start talking about what a man really desires in his wife. And then she starts seeing her side of just like starving him out. And then he starts taking responsibility to her. She starts taking responsibility to him. They start getting all this shit out on the table. And then just because of truth. And then you bring in a God frame around it. Then we start asking them what they want it to look like, envisioning the future together. And then all of a sudden they just start coming together. And like it can happen really fast, which is so cool. It's like,
Hey, you're welcome, couples. You just got a fucking playbook. All right. Kyle just gave it to you in a few bullets, so take it and use it. You're welcome.
so that's
awesome.
Our focus this year. I'll keep getting guys ripped, but we really enjoy training couples together. There's a fitness element to it too. But overall, it's communication, it's honesty, it's planning, it's like knowing each other's hopes and dreams, and then taking responsibility for each other's either shortcomings or like what they want in the future. Most guys, you ask, hey, what does your wife want? They're like, I don't know. You know, it's like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know what she dreams about. Like,
and you're okay with that answer? You know, like,
yeah. Yeah. And then you're like, how often you guys having sex? And he's like, once a month. And you're like, are you good with that? And he's like, no, not good with that. And you're like,
Okay,
okay.
good. We've got 2 places we can work on
Yeah,
immediately.
we
2
got some
things we
shit
can
to
hit
work
on.
on.
Yeah.
I love it because it's the cornerstone of a family. Literally, the resistance will go directly for the marriage, because if you can fuck up the marriage and disconnect it, it'll ruin the energy in the home, and that energy will carry on to the kids. It'll carry on to their kids' kids. It's like the place where if we can heal that, we can heal generations.
Man, that's awesome. God, that's awesome. Well, dude, I'm internally grateful for you taking the time today, as busy as you are. Not with just 5 kids and Whitney and 700 plus members. Like, yeah, man, you God amongst men doing the Lord's work in every bit of ways, for your own sake and theirs. So really
Thanks,
appreciate it,
man.
Kyle.
Been watching you eat a lot of meat. It's cool. I like all the shit that you do. It's fun. It
Trying,
scares
man.
me, actually. I'm like, man, I don't want to do that.
Well, next time I'm out west, I'm gonna come. I'm gonna come see you.
Yeah, come
Run
out,
into
dude.
you for sure.
Hell yeah.
Well, for everybody else, we'll have Kyle's contact info and everything Superhuman Fathers for how you can find him, where you can connect with him, how to sign up with him, and his mission, and how to do the most with the least. And for everybody else, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Sick, Scared, and Stupid. I'm your host, Jake Thomas. We'll see you next time.